everybody. I'm Sean Reynolds from Sportsnet. I'm about to be joined by Ken Wiebe from the Winnipeg Free Press. Together we are Kenny and Renny. This is the Kenny and Renny post-game show after the third loss of the season for the Winnipeg Jets against the LA Kings. Just to be clear, it is 1:45 in the morning here in Boston, where I have an early flight to go continue the Ovi watch off to Raleigh, North Carolina tomorrow. And I'm here. Why? Because no one will ever accuse Renny of being a sucky boo-boo and not showing up. And the unfortunate part is there's going to be a lot of sucky boo-boos out here who will never hear that. But you know what? Come rain or come shine. Kenny and I, we're like Karl Malone. We're like the mailman. We always deliver. Kenny and Renny are always going to deliver. And that's what we're going to do right now. We're going to deliver on this show and kind of dig into what happened out there for the Winnipeg Jets. I know that there's a lot of people out there who want to kind of like every time the Jets lose, there's got to be an excuse if they just would have done this or if just that would have happened, blah, blah, and this and that. I wonder if when people say that, like, I heard a lot of, well, if they just would have borne down a little bit more, if they just would have finished, or if they just wouldn't have made this mistake, or if they just wouldn't have made that mistake. I mean, by that logic, how many games would the Jets have lost this season if the opposing team would have just borne down or just would have got that bounce or just would have got that call or whatever? I always think it's a pointless argument, and I think it's an extremely pointless argument in a game like this, because this is the third game, like I'd said, that the Winnipeg Jets lose to the LA Kings, and you got to admit, as much as you don't want to, those losses all look very similar to each other. The Winnipeg Jets aren't able to generate much in the way of shots against the LA Kings. They're not able to generate a lot in the way of finish. This is, I think, the first game of the year they lost 4-1. So this is 2 4-1 losses in their building. It was a little closer in the Jets building. Jets lose that one in overtime, one of the few games they've lost in overtime this year. But what I see is, there's a bunch of things I see. It hurt, and I don't want to dig too much into this because I'd like to save this for a conversation with Kenny. But what does this team look like when Luke Schenn's not in the lineup? Amazing to see, what he's added at the deadline. And I know that I was asked a question at some point about how much different this team is with Luke Schenn in the lineup. And I mean, the Jets have been a great team all year. And yes, there's always been the Logan Stanley thing that was hanging out there. And yes, we knew that once Luke Schenn got here, that Logan's time was going to be limited somewhat going there forward. But there's a lot of mistakes made on the back end here tonight that end up in the back of the Winnipeg Jets net. A lot of mistakes that you have not seen a guy like Luke Schenn make since he's got to town. So yes, the Winnipeg Jets really missed him. We'll dig into what they missed about him here. But this is, again, I like to use this one because it comes up so often, but this is a Spider-Man meme game for me. What happened to the Winnipeg Jets on this night, as a Jets fan, is what you typically see the Winnipeg Jets do to their opposition. Quick transition on mistakes that are made, trying to force your opposition into mistakes, trying to lure them into, making that one extra play. Jets did it tonight on the goal that they get going their way. They capitalize on Quentin Byfield making a mistake, a shot he should not have shot. That's what the Winnipeg Jets do. That's what makes them a good team. You can say all day long, if you're the team playing the Winnipeg Jets, well, yeah, but if they wouldn't have made that mistake, it wouldn't have gone the other way and in the back of the net, and we would have won that game, right? Good teams force other teams to make mistakes. The LA Kings are a good team. They're a really good team on home ice. And their games against the Winnipeg Jets, let's just say it right now. There's not many puzzles the Winnipeg Jets have not figured out this season, but the LA Kings are one of them. The Winnipeg Jets have yet to figure out how to generate their offense against that team. They're yet to figure out how to kind of get to the front of the net and create that chaos that they typically create. A couple of times they came close to it on this night, but they definitely weren't able to do it consistently. Really were challenged getting over the blue line with control. Maybe one of those games that the Jets needed to do a little bit more of the, just realize. You've heard the Jets say this after games like this, or games that they've won where where they just came to the realization they're not going to get to carry the puck over the blue line with possession. And that to me was a real area that was sore for the Jets. They lose a goal. Second goal of the game ends up happening because of that, a turnover at the blue line. The LA Kings gave them only one option on this night, and that's dump it in and try and beat us to the puck and grind it out. And the Jets, I thought, especially on the power play, got stubborn in the idea of trying to carry the puck in with possession, and it worked against them on this night, kept them from getting their flow. Great game plan by the LA Kings. It works again, and a game plan they've used against the Jets. And like I said, that would be the one thing that's a little bit tricky if you're the Winnipeg Jets, is that you've had 3 chances at cracking this code, and they found themselves going down a road where it seemed like, rather than learning as the game went on, like the Winnipeg Jets typically do, it felt like they stayed confounded against this team the entire time. That's my take on the whole thing. Time to bring the man with the best music for his take on the whole thing. Here comes Kenny, folks. Kenny, I would like to be matching you as a Vittorio Rossi man in this moment, but I plan to maybe fall asleep halfway through this show, right on this microphone right here. But when this show is done, I'm going to hop in that bed because I got lots to do tomorrow. And then the day after that, there's a couple flights in the next 36 hours here. So I wanted to make sure that I was like nice and comfy and could just nod right off. So I took the suit off. Good thing you're holding it down, my man. It's a little bit more manageable of a time where you are right now. What is it? 11:52 where you are, or
10:52?
10:52. Look at you. You've got young man, you've got your whole night ahead of you. Good for you. You're going to enjoy it there. And you're going to be looking like $1 million when you do it, because of course, Frankie and the boys did you up right at Vittorio Rossi. So if you have, one of those nights that you want to head out and have the whole night ahead of you and look like $1 million doing it, folks, you know what to do. Head on down to Vittorio Rossi, walk in, loudly proclaim Kenny and Renny sent you, ask for Frankie and the boys, and they will do you upright. Ken, what'd you see in that game?
Yeah, it was interesting, Sean. I agree with you. The Kings were very good. Absolutely great plan in terms of how they wanted to defend against the Jets. They were really ferocious. They did not allow the Jets forecheck to get going at all. And again, I don't think the Jets played a terrible game, but their mistakes that they made, the self-inflicted wounds were very costly. I mean, it was funny. I was sort of trying to work on my lead for my story, and I'm like, well, for people who think these are not unforced errors, right? There's a difference between unforced errors and self-inflicted wounds. They were forced. That's why I think on the first one the Jets were kind of hearing footsteps a little bit. On the second one, David Gustafson's got to get that deep. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. If you have the puck in the neutral zone with control, you got to get it deep. And on the third one, I mean, Logan Stanley tried to do a little bit too much. He got his pocket picked, and to add insult to injury, yard sailed into the boards, and Kuzmenko went in alone and scored. Right, so this wasn't a turnover fest by the Jets, but their turnovers were incredibly, incredibly costly. I actually thought that their start to the game before giving up the first goal was quite good. They actually generated some traffic and chaos around the net. Not a ton of grade A's, but I thought they sort of simplified their game. They knew they'd have to be patient. And then just that sequence, I believe it was Colin Miller trying to get the puck rim around to Mark Scheifele. It was too hot for him it was past him. It wasn't on the tape. And Joel Edmondson with a, pretty, nondescript shot, but Trevor Moore battled in front of the net, and it wasn't a redirection that went straight in. The redirection hit Hellebuck on like the side of the pad, and the puck bounced back to him and kind of went in off of him. And Second goal is an absolute beauty, right? After Gustafsson turns it over, I spoke with Adam Lowry this morning, Sean, about just that, the transition game, and not getting yourself in trouble. Sometimes you just got to play for the tie, essentially, in the shift. And again, David Gustafsson isn't a player who's too cute. He wanted to get it in. I think he probably lost the handle, and the puck was turned over, and great play by Kempe. And then Kuzmenko, just an absolute beauty of a pass to Anze Kopitar, who continues to rack up points with great frequency against the Jets. And then on the third one, I've already described it. So, I mean, I don't think the Jets played poorly in terms of, not being able to hang with the Kings. But, I mean, you touched on it. Like, if there was ever any doubt of the value of Luke Schenn's acquisition at the NHL trade deadline, this was it. This is a big, heavy game with a lot of bodies getting thrown around, and we knew the Kings would try to go hard to the paint. Well, the Jets were missing a big body in Luke Schenn. Luke stiffened up this morning during the morning skate. I did see him walking around, and he wasn't looking overly nimble. We know how tough Luke Schenn is. We know how much of a competitor he is. If he was feeling even remotely close to good enough to playing, he would have been in the lineup. Scott O'Neill officially called him day to day when I asked about him after the game, but we'll see about his status for Thursday. I mean, without Neil Pionk, and we'll get to him later because he was on the ice, and I had a glimpse of it. His return is not imminent, but they also miss Neil Pionk today. There's no doubt about that. We'll dig into it a little bit deeper, but that overall, yeah, I mean, we've seen Darcy Kemper, Sean. We've seen Darcy Kemper at his absolute best. This is very close to that. The Kings are incredibly structured. I mean, you remember the conversation about, that Hellebuck's appreciation of him and the analytics of his game, right? I mean, Darcy Kemper is playing very well, and, you got to get traffic. You got to get grade A's to beat them, and the Jets didn't get enough grade A's. And when they did get grade A's, they didn't get good enough quality looks on them. Nino Niederreiter had that great chance late in the first, and, Kemper had to make a pad save, but he didn't get all of it, right? I mean, that's a situation where, so Mark Scheifele in the second. Mark Scheifele's got the puck on his backhand, can't corral it, and next thing you know, it's in the corner instead of in the back of the net. The Kings snipers, they got their chances, and they absolutely buried them. I mean, they were opportunistic, but they don't sit back. Even though they go into shutdown mode, they don't just sit back and let you have free ice. I mean, they don't push the pace, but they defend incredibly hard. There is no space out there, and every inch of space you get, you have to earn because because they're that diligent defensively. I'm blown away by how hard they play. Jim Hiller has done a fabulous job, and I just wrote a piece today about how Scott O'Neill's got to be among the front runners for the Jack Adams. I mean, obviously Spencer Carberry is on that list, very high. Dean Evison, especially with Columbus now sort of battling to be back in the playoffs. I think Jim Hiller is a guy, Sean, who should be getting some acknowledgement here. What he's doing with the Kings and what he's done, absolutely top notch and exceptional.
Agreed. I wanted to touch on something that you said there. I think it's really important. You were talking about the way that the LA Kings defended when they had that lead. That's the important part about it, because I've said this before. The worst thing that you can do, it's been like this for years, and it's because they're so opportunistic, because they're so dangerous. But the worst thing you can do when defending a lead against the Winnipeg Jets is sitting back on that lead. And so I think the perfect example of it, and it happened throughout that game, but, with that late power play, there was that point where they got the puck down, and the Kings are contesting the puck, not just, at their blue line or in the neutral zone. They're contesting that puck way up in the offensive zone in that situation. But for that shift from about 3 minutes to 2 minutes left, when the Jets are getting ready to try and pull the goaltender, and the Kings head out and just have a shift where they're cramming it down the Jets' throat. Like, this is what I mean by that Spider-Man meme. That is exactly what the Winnipeg Jets do. That makes the Jets so dangerous, because it's not like, okay, we think we can hold you off and build a wall here. It's like, forget that. Give us the puck, because you can't score if you don't have the puck. And that was a little bit of the attitude. I mean, there was definitely a push by the Winnipeg Jets, especially to start that second period. And I think the Kings did. The one thing about the Jets is the Jets have this they've got this. I think they catch teams by surprise because teams are thinking, okay, well, we're going to expect a push, but they don't expect an all-out push like that, like the beginning of the second period, and we're going to play like we're playing with, in minute 58 and 59 of being down, like that sense of urgency. They catch people, but to your point, like this is one thing that the Jets, I thought, struggled with as the game went on down the stretch there, is that usual dangerous, the Jets are coming feel that you get as the clock goes from 12 minutes to 10 minutes to 8 minutes. Usually I just always think like the recipe that the Jets have, especially if they're down by 2, is with about 8 minutes left in the game, they're going to score a goal, and now it's just a 1-goal lead. And then when you get down underneath 5 minutes left, the Jets are just so good at generating with that extra man on the ice. All of a sudden it's a tie game, head to overtime. We know how the Jets are in overtime. Boom, you win it. There was just not that look by the Winnipeg Jets on this night. And I know, again, there's a lot of people who want to say, well, if they would have finished here and they would have finished there, and tried to say that was like, it would have been a different game. But the one thing that I find very interesting about the LA Kings, they've done something this year that not a lot of teams have been able to do against the Jets. The Jets look a very, very specific way down the stretch, trailing in a game like that. And whether they do pull off the comeback or not, and they've pulled off the comeback, what was it, 22 come from behind victories this year? There's a certain way that they look, and the LA Kings, in my mind, just did not allow them to look that way on this night.
They got the boa constrictor out, Sean. Like, this is, like you say, this is what the Jets have often done to teams, right? I mean, this is the classic, like you said, Superman or Spider-Man meme, but they had no answer for it, right? I mean, I thought that Cole Perfetti was the Jets' most dangerous player. I thought Nikolaj Ehlers was pretty effective in the game. I thought, he generated 2 power plays, in the third period, was tripped on 2 occasions. I thought, he had a bunch of shot attempts. I think he had, let's go to the paper. We've got 2 shots on goal, 9 shot attempts, and a hit for Ehlers, a blocked shot. I thought he was pretty active and involved in the game. But the Jets' top line was not operating at full capacity today, Sean, and they've done a great job this year. We have constantly sung their praises, and deservedly so, but this was not a strong game for Mark Scheifele or Kyle Connor, and Alex Iafallo as well. Just not enough generation for me. Kyle Connor, 2 shots, 4 attempts. Mark Scheifele, 3 shots, 6 attempts, 1 hit. I just didn't think they did a good enough job of getting to the hard areas in this game. And again, in a game like that, you have to have your stars shining, right? Kempe and Kopitar were shining for the Kings, right? Even though you can argue they were opportunistic, but Jets' top line didn't get enough done today. And, again, they've earned plenty of mulligans, and they haven't had to use very many mulligans this year, Sean. But this was a game where the top line didn't have its best.
Okay, I want to get into an idea you floated to me. I liked it a lot. First, I'm going to go with this. Jeff Kabilis, I think, gets the hot take,
sir.
Hot comment of the game award here, where he says Ehlers had a good defensive game as well. On top of, like, I just think as the Jets are trying to get back into that game, was there anyone who is kind of like sparking the flint to start the fire more than Nikolaj Ehlers? But to Jeff Kabilis' point, there's something you texted me at some point about Ehlers being a possible got you covered play of the game when he ran back and like he's defensively responsible. Yeah, exactly. And yet he's going the other end of the ice. So Jeff Kabilis, I think, absolutely nails it with the Flame and Comfort hot take of the game. And of course, that is your KNR hot take, brought to you by Flame and Comfort, Manitoba's premier supplier of fireplaces, wood stoves, inserts, and everything hearth related. After 50 years heating up your world, Flame and Comfort is soon moving. You'll find it will be one of the most impressive showrooms in Western Canada. You don't need your hot takes to keep that warm feeling inside. You can do so by visiting Flame and Comfort. And I just wanted to say thank you. A number of shows ago, one of our viewers reached out to let me know that it's not hearth-related products, it's hearth-related products. So thank you for the correction on that. Ken, I wanted to go here because I thought it was a fascinating comment that you made to me. You talked about the first line kind of not getting going the way that you thought they should be be doing so. And you had suggested or floated to me the idea of moving Cole Perfetti up on a line with Mark Scheifele. We got to talk about Cole Perfetti this show. I love the idea of you tinkering and thinking of this. Give us your premise behind it.
Yeah, I just think that, I understand folks were out of their minds when the lines got, sort of put into balance here by Scott or Neil, or that was the premise behind wanting to have more balanced line and lines. And for me, I mean, for all the folks that were up in arms about Cole being on the quote unquote third line, well, he was put on the line so he could be the driver on that line. That's what he's done entirely. And again, I understand there's a fine balance between, giving a player too much and giving him not enough. But in my situation, in my opinion, I think that, and this has nothing to do with Alex Iafallo. It has more to do with Perfetti and his ability to drive right now. I understand all of the things that Alex Iafallo does that can be effective with that line with Mark Scheifele and Kyle Connor. But in a game where offense is hard to come by and Perfetti is one of the guys generating, I think it would have been, or it would be something that I would like to see the Jets test drive at some point in the last 7 games here, Sean. Perfetti with Scheifele and Connor to augment those two players and give them a little bit more of an offensive weapon on that line, but he's also doing some digging and going to the hard areas. Does he forecheck the same way that Alex Iafallo does as effectively? Is he as disruptive? No. Is he as sound defensively? No, but he is someone who's defensively sound. So, and again, I'm not saying it was Iafallo dragging down the line by any stretch of the imagination. What I am saying, though, is Cole Perfetti's playing some of his best hockey, and this was one of the few nights where the top line needed a spark. I think that'd be something that Scott or Neil could consider for maybe even for the game against the Vegas Golden Knights, Sean, because we know it's going to be a similar style in terms of the checking and the physical play and not much ice available. So, and the flip side of that, Sean, is I also think Iafallo would work perfectly with Nino Niederreiter and Vladislav Nemestikov. Right now you have kind of 3 pit bulls on the same line, a little bit different style for each player, but I think they would really work well together as well. So I don't think there's any drop off. And hey, I get it. All the Nikolaj Ehlers folks are saying, oh, well, what about Ehlers? Put Ehlers on the top line. And hey, we've seen that line in small doses absolutely blow the doors off the opponent. I can think of that game against the Calgary Flames a couple years ago, Sean, where they had 10 points combined in the game. But it hasn't had a ton of staying power. And Sean, to your point about Ehlers and his defensive play, I think Ehlers is playing so well, I wouldn't move him off that line with Adam Lowry and Mason Appleton, because they can also be an offensive threat to go along with the sound defensive play that they're delivering also at the other end of the ice. But again, I think that Cole Perfetti, Sean, is not only to the point where he's elevated his game, I think he's elevated his game to the point where you could give him a test drive on that top line. And again, I'm not saying give them 7 games of it. Give them a little taste of it, whether it's 1 game, whether it's 2 or whatever else. I think he's worthy of a promotion in that situation. And I don't think there'd be any drop off on the other line either.
Here's my issue with that. And I like it. I like everything that you said. My one issue is that that top line typically works and has worked and has been elevated to a place that Mark Scheifele and Kyle Connor really have never gone before in their career because of that net front presence that opens everything up for them. And my issue with that is who goes to the front of the net. Like, I know we've talked about Cole and needing to go to the front of the net and needing to add that element of his game, and he has, and it's what's made him a lot better, but he's not Mr. Park yourself in front of the net and absolutely shut it down. Now, I'm not saying, Ken, for a second that it wouldn't work. Maybe you get those 3 guys. You've got tons of hockey IQ. You've got 3 great hands. Cole, there was another example of it tonight where he went into the boards and had a guy all over him. And I just noticed at some point that guy ended up on the ground. It's just his ability to kind of shake off checkers and hold his ground now on the boards. I'm getting to the point where I don't just think like Cole Perfetti's a young player who's holding his own on the boards. He's starting to become not dominant, but he's starting to become like 75% of the time. I expect him to win the battle against a guy who may be bigger than him. So he can hold his own when it comes to that. What makes that line good is possessing the puck, holding it along the boards, doing those things. I just wonder if so much of what works about that line, even with Alex Iafallo, as it's worked in the last number of games, is the idea that if you've got someone who takes everyone's eyes to the front of the net, Mark Scheifele and Kyle Connor operate so dangerously in your blind spots. And I just don't know. Maybe Cole Perfetti creates those blind spots with his hockey IQ. Maybe he creates it with his deception and ability to pass. But right now, I think the reason Alex Iafallo worked up there the last number of games is because of that net front presence. And it's, let's say a poor man's version of Gabe Vilardi. I just think that I'm not saying it wouldn't work. And I just think that the way things have gone with Alex Iafallo may not have worked tonight. I'm not so quick to move on from Alex Iafallo. I think they need a little bit more time to go back and do what he was doing in that situation there. Let's move on to. I never know when you're gonna kind of pop back from it.
Sorry,
I want to touch on this.
I'm with you too. I mean, I'm not. This is not an anti-Iafallo sentiment. I think it's more to do with Perfetti. I think his game has risen to the point where I'd just be curious. I mean, I'm not.
I know exactly what you're saying. You're talking about him getting to the point where he's like you said it. This guy's looking like he's in driver territory. This guy's, it used to be. Oh God, what was his name? Years ago, the Jets had him. They lost him in unrestricted free agency. They picked him up from the Chicago Blackhawks. Czech player, Michael Frolik. Michael Frolik was that guy that you needed a spark. You put him up on that line. I agree with you. And it's a compliment to Cole Perfetti. He's at the stage right now where it's like, oh, Mark Scheifele's not going, Kyle Connor's not going. Put Cole Perfetti with him. See what happens. I'm fascinated by what you're saying. I agree with it, Ken. I just think that he's already doing it on the second line and kind of making it rain. I would stick with the structure that's worked for now with the Winnipeg Jets, having the net front guy and two really great scorers in Kyle Connor and Mark Scheifele. And I would continue with Cole Perfetti doing what he's doing because he just continues to do it. I wanted to go in a bit of a different direction here. I don't want this to necessarily be, it's a little bit of a wake-up call. And not for the reason that it's a bad take, but Bustin Dufflin says, great point about Heinola. Heinola should be getting the leash Stanley has. Why do we need him? What is he bringing? I'm not saying that there wasn't, a mistake made by Logan Stanley here tonight that ends up in a goal going the other way. What I'm saying is, what is he bringing? We've explained this time and time again, what the coaches feel that he's bringing. Ken touched on it earlier. That's a big, heavy team in the Kings. And without a guy like Luke Schenn, and we said this on this show, once Luke Schenn got into the lineup before injuries happened, that was it. Logan Stanley was out of the lineup. And the reason was because the Jets now had that large size element on the back end to replace Logan Stanley. We've said this for years. There's been apparent things about Logan Stanley that have been problematic that viewers have been pointing out all season. And we get it. We've always got it. But if you're looking for the explanation of why coaches keep doing that, Ville Heinola, and someone had said this, if Ville Heinola had made half the errors and mistakes that Logan Stanley had, he would have been buried. And I don't disagree with that at all. But I do think that Ville Heinola has shown in the past that he's a mistake-prone player, but he's also a smaller player who coaches don't believe can grind it out in a game like that. It's the explanation of why Logan Stanley is in the lineup. We can have the argument that Heinola should be getting an opportunity in spite of all that. But when you ask the question of what is he bringing to the lineup, it's been answered over and over again by the coaching staff. The reason Logan Stanley is in the lineup, and you can expect him in the lineup in games where a guy like Luke Schenn is not in, when everyone is healthy, back at it again. So that leads to the Pristine Roofing wake-up call. You know what that means. Time to give North End Rick the Pristine Roofing wake-up call at 981 237-7663. Give your home the Pristine Roofing wake-up call. You will be happy that you did. Okay, I wanted to get to here, before we move on from that, I wanted you, Ken, just to quickly explain what that game looks like. We know what it looked like without Luke Schenn, and you touched on how important he is. What does that game look like with Luke Schenn?
Yeah, I just think that it's a little less chaotic, I think. And again, we talked about this a ton. I mean, Colin Miller is having a strong season when he has been in the lineup. I would today I would say there was a slight amount of overexposure. And again, that's not to say Colin Miller can't do the job or he can't do the job in small doses, but sometimes when a guy goes from the third pairing to the second pairing, it can be a tough night. Sean, we talked about this with Dylan Samberg. Last year when Brendan Dillon got hurt, Dylan Samberg didn't handle the second pairing responsibilities super well in the series with the Colorado Avalanche. But that also meant Dylan Samberg went home in the summer and knew he was getting a elevated role on the blue line. And he went out not only and grabbed it, he took an iron grip to it and took his game to another level. Now, Colin Miller is a little bit more of an experienced player. You kind of know what more of the finished product is. And it's just to say that often on nights like this against one of the best teams in the NHL, the Jets are better off if Colin Miller is on the third pairing. But again, and I'm not just blaming Colin Miller in this game either. I mean, that's not the case. This was a situation where it was a little more chaotic on the second pairing than we're used to seeing. When Luke has been out there, it just sort of, he's able to slow the game down a little bit. Yeah. I just thought that it was a little bit more of a frantic game for Colin Miller and Dylan Samberg as a pairing this evening. So again, it's one game. I thought Colin Miller had elevated his game of late. I thought the third pairing was kind of getting into the groove, but today with Schenn being out, Hayden Fleury came in. I thought there were some moments for Hayden Fleury that were strong. I mean, his skating in a game like this, Sean, where there's not a lot of space, having that elite level skating is a big asset for Hayden Fleury. But I mean, Hayden hasn't played very much, so I'm not up here saying and pounding on the table saying, well, Hayden Fleury should have been on the second pairing with Dylan Samberg either. But what I am saying is I thought there were parts of Hayden Fleury's game that, like all we talked about all season long, there's times when you can see why he has been a regular for the Jets this year at various points and handled his minutes pretty well. But yeah, I mean, I just think that the Jets defense core as a whole didn't have a great outing. And again, I'm not saying that Luke Schenn means the Jets win the game. What I am saying that Luke Schenn's physical style, ability to box out, block shots, be a physical presence would have come in pretty valuable in this game. And LBA Split says Pionk has missed a lot. And hey, Neil Pionk, this is his kind of game, Sean. Junkyard dog kind of game, battle, get shots in from the point, things like that. So they missed him as well. And just quickly on the topic of Neil Pionk, for those who, either didn't read what I wrote in the warm-up today or in the paper or on CGOB, Neil Pionk joined the Jets on the ice for the first time since his injury, Sean, since being sidelined. And he was moving around pretty well. His return is not imminent. But he is inching closer to a return. The Jets will not skate on Wednesday in Vegas. It's a CBA day off. Their next scheduled practice is Friday in Salt Lake City. So I expect Pionk to be on the ice. I think this is probably still probably more than a week, but I do think with 7 games left in the regular season that we will see Neil Pionk before the end of the regular season. Will that be April 10th against the Dallas Stars? I mean, that's an awfully big ask for your first game back. So I don't know. I know Neil Pionk would want to be in, but just a hilarious scene, Sean. Neil kind of creeps out of the dressing room down the tunnel about 20 minutes into the skate, and tries to sneak his way onto the ice to get to the back of the line to get involved in a drill. And all of his teammates start banging their sticks and like hooting and hollering, like a welcome back Cotter type of situation. And then, for people who don't know at home, Neil Pionk has got a little bit of a sneaky sense of humor, Sean.
Yeah.
Not overly talkative or verbose when it comes to interviews, But Neil Pionk's reaction to the serenading of his teammates was to give the Queen wave to the crowd, as if the crowd was full, even though there's probably 15 of us in the building that are media and maybe 5 or 6 fans that are watching the skate. It was quite funny. Classic Pionk. Yeah, thank you very much. Welcome back. Thank you. Hopefully I'll be here soon.
I just wanted to say this about Schenn. I think it's too bad we didn't get to see him against this team, because like I said, this was 3 games that they lost against the LA Kings. I think that when you go and get a guy like Luke Schenn, this is the exact kind of game that you get him for, right? Like shutting down those, what has LA done consistently this year against the Jets? It's getting that shot from the point, chaos in front of the net, boom, it's in the back of the net. What does Luke Schenn do really well? He just doesn't let you get to the front of the net, right? Maybe that goal comes off the board if Luke Schenn is in that game. And, he's also very good at shutting down passing lanes, blocking shots. So maybe he gets in the way of that, because I will say this, that turnover that happens at the blue line on the second goal, and the pass over that's in the back of the net, there was a massive overcommit, I thought, on that play by Miller. He's basically going for the same guy that's already covered in that situation. So to your point, things get slowed down when Schenn is in there. Slowing down is just basically another way of saying everything's just really orderly and everything makes sense and everything's in the right spot. Things slow down because you don't have to get skate fast to get into the right spot, because you're already in the right spot. When Ken talks about Luke Schenn slowing things down, it's because he's not moving more than he has to, because he's already in the right spot. So I think that would have been a really interesting game to see what the Jets would have looked like with him in the line.
That's like you said, those are games that Luke Schenn is acquired for, playoff games. This is a playoff style game, and they missed that element today a big time.
And let me just say, I believe it would have paid off tonight if they would have had Luke Schenn in the lineup. And hey, if you're looking to pay off high interest credit cards or debt, we suggest you go talk to our friends at Cambrian Credit Union about their payoff loan. They can show you how taking out a loan to pay off your debt actually gets you debt free faster, and you can save thousands of dollars. Go to cambrian.mb.ca to book an appointment online. Ken, you want to give Sweet Lou a shout out before we move on?
You bet. For folks who have realty needs you'd like to have met, contact our main man, Lou Ferlin, at Royal LePage Dynamic Realty, 204-791-9971, or at the office, 204-989-5000. His email is lou@louferlin.ca. That's LOU@LOUFURLAN.ca. Lou Ferlin, excellent realtor, excellent human being, and excellent supporter of our fine community, including this podcast.
I just wanted to touch on Cole Perfetti just quickly. Nothing's changed since the last show that we talked about him and, the evolution that we're seeing from him. But I just thought tonight, so he gets out of the box. I don't think this is rocket science. He gets out of the box, Jets have possession of the puck. So he moves to a spot on the ice where he can readily accept the pass, and then gets on a 2-on-1 with Kyle Connor. It is, right, Ken? I think it says a lot. I think it says a lot that you've got. So we talked about that confidence level that he's seeing. I talked at length last show, which I got to say, hey, our takes are our babies on this show. And that one baby is one that I'm really proud of. The idea of Cole Perfetti getting a goal like that, I think, is important, because it opens up the idea of him being a certain kind of player, breaking down his game and building back up. And every time you do something like that, it's like, yeah, I can be this player in that league. How long ago do you think it would have been, Ken, that a guy like Cole Perfetti may have not got the best shot off, or not a shot off at all, and tried to force a pass across because he would have been in his head thinking and deferring to Kyle Connor in that situation? You've got he was number 3, I think, going into the day today. I believe Kyle Connor's now tied for 4th in NHL scoring. You've got the 4th place scorer in the NHL on a 2-on-1 with you and you're a young player, a lot of guys in that situation are just thinking pass, and it ruins their shot because they're thinking, well, I think I should try to get it to Kyle in this situation. What I love about that play, people talked about his confidence building. I know Kevin Sawyer talked about, his response afterwards. Confidence is quiet, right? And Cole scores these goals and he kind of turns and he kind of gets that, like, my nephew's got the same look that young kids have now where it's like, oh, it's a little dusty in here. I got to kind of squint a little bit. He got that look afterwards, which is kind of like, no big deal. Nothing's going on here. Nothing to celebrate, right? He's got that look. It's the Gen Y look out there that he's got going on. But what I see is the confidence on the way into that play where he's like the Terminator, he's assessing, he's being like, okay, if I pass, this is where the stick is. This is, the possibilities of me getting it through. Let me check out the goaltender. This is, I've assessed it. This is where it is. And he just very confidently rips that shot, right? There's no kind of look of should I or shouldn't I. And what I love about that is, like, he scores. It's the right move. The pass is not there, or it's the riskier play.
Yeah.
They give him the shot, and he just buries it past the goaltender. And there's no like, oh, sorry, Kyle, I wanted to get it to you. It's like, no, it's okay, Kyle. I know you're pretty good at scoring, but I got this. Don't worry about it. I just love the confidence shown by the player in that play. And again, to me, it's just more signs of this rapid evolution that we've seen in Cole Perfetti.
Yeah, and I actually think that he sold pass well enough that he froze Kemper, which allowed him to beat him with, it was, yes, a perfect shot, but I think that Kemper is seeing this evolve too in front of him and develop, and he sees Kyle Connor on the back door, and he maybe cheats pass a little bit in that scenario. But yeah, I mean, it's an impressive job by Perfetti. Kyle Connor is still tied for fourth in the NHL with Ovechkin, Gensel, Point.
Yes, yeah, but he was third. He started out.
Yeah, Tage passed him to 39.
Third,
Yeah.
That's what it was.
52, Nylander 30 or 42, Tage Thompson third at 39, and then you got the four-way tie with 38, Pasternak 37, Scheifele tied for ninth with Sam Reinhart at 36. So
yeah, he went into the day tied for third with Tage, and then Tage scored with Tage and with Point. Point didn't score, and then Gensel and Ovi were one behind him. How ridiculous is it that Alexander Ovechkin at 39 years old is now tied with Kyle Connor for fourth in the NHL in scoring, and he's giving up 10 or 15 games to every guy on that list because he broke his leg this year and missed that time. Like right now, he would be challenging Leon Draisaitl for the who crossed the 50-point plateau recently. He would be challenging him for the league lead in goals right now. It is absolutely remarkable. And the one thing that I will say is I was really hoping that the game, to make it so that this I wasn't extended and away from the Jets and away from Winnipeg as long as I'll be on this trip. I was hoping the game before Walter and Brielle Adventure says, on a bigger note with goals, Shawnee is one goal closer to heading home. There you go. Exactly. That's what I think.
He knows what's up, Walter.
Yeah. Walter and Brielle get it. They know. But I was really hoping the game before they played Winnipeg, they were playing the Panthers, and they won that game 6-3. I was hoping he'd get like 2 goals there. And then if he got one against the Jets, well, now that's 3 goals I wouldn't have to be on the road for, right? And so the first game, he does not score against the Wild. He was really close. And I was just thinking to myself, oh man, this is going to take forever. He's got 3 goals in his last 4 games right now. Like, and this is the thing that I kind of find fascinating, is there's no squeezing the stick as he gets closer to history, right? This is just a guy who just methodically goes out and does you do not get to be the greatest goal scorer of all time without just finding a way to be that guy who always does the right thing to score goals. And it is something to say, like, what we're looking at from Kyle Connor this year is a marvel. Phenomenal player, phenomenal goal scorer. And it's one of these things that just reminds me, like, one day Kyle Connor will be able to say, at my best, I was like one of the best goal scorers in the NHL. He'll be able to tell his grandkids. And if his grandkids go digging in the stats, they're going to be like, "What happened this year, Dad, when this guy, scored all these goals at 39 years old?" And he'll be able to say, "Yeah, that guy was just a freak of nature. Like that guy was above and beyond." And that's why he's the all-time goal scorer in the NHL. Very interesting stuff. I wanted to touch on Ehlers before we move on, because on this night, and I touched on it before, when the Jets were trying to get back into that game, and I'll just take the first part of this, Ken, and then you can respond to it. Nick Ehlers' speed is such a massive tool that I honestly think for a Jets team that has come back 22 times this year, I don't know how many times Nikolaj Ehlers factored in on the come from behind goals in these games. But Nick Ehlers is he's an outlier in that he cannot be covered in a system the way that even a lot of other good players can. His speed is so outstanding. His, evasiveness with that speed is so outstanding. You saw it tonight. He draws 2 penalties, and the first one is a perfect example. That player trips him because he does the kind of spin around and move. And I'm telling you right now, there's nothing that player, Gavrikov, could have done in that situation. He's responding. He's putting his stick in a place to try and get the puck. His brain is just knee-jerk reacting to what Nikolaj Ehlers is doing. Nikolaj Ehlers at times creating those, drawn penalties. It's a cheat code because he can just move in a way that other players cannot properly respond to. And you're taking a penalty. I don't think there's a coach who's turning and being like, "You can't be doing that. You can't be doing this." It's just like, you got to tip your cap to a guy who's so good that he draws that penalty, and then he goes and draws another one. And I thought looked dangerous so often in that night. If Nikolaj Ehlers, I'm calling this right now, mark it down, folks. If you want like a Renny, I will stand on a take. I'm saying it right now. If the Winnipeg Jets do not re-sign Nikolaj Ehlers, it will fundamentally change them as an organization, because the tool that he is, what he's able to create for the Winnipeg Jets when they are down in a game, is something that is just, you can't teach it. Very few players possess it. And what you get with the Winnipeg Jets is a top line that's very capable of scoring. But then this one player who you can play him on the second line, third line, or whatever, and he can just go out and challenge an entire team with that speed and open up these tiny little openings. 2 power plays that he created, that if the Winnipeg Jets power play was working, they could have scored on, and this would be a different game. But what you're asking for is those openings in a game that you're down. Just give us an opening that we can try and get back into this. I don't know that there are many players in the league that can generate those openings the way that Nikolaj Ehlers does, either by, hey, I think it was a couple games ago that he came against the Buffalo Sabres ripping down the ice, and that slap shot, right? Like sometimes what it looks like is him just going and scoring a goal. Sometimes what it looks like is him drawing a penalty. But I'm telling you right now, mark it down. If Nikolaj Ehlers does not remain with the Winnipeg Jets, it will fundamentally alter who they are as an organization. And I will say this, their ability to generate come from behind victories, as they've been good at for years and years and years, will take a hit with the loss of Nikolaj Ehlers if he goes.
Yeah, not on the shameless plug variety here, Sean, but I had a great chat with Nikolaj Ehlers this morning about a variety of topics, including playing with Lowry and Appleton. Also, about getting ready for the playoffs, and his ability to compartmentalize what he's gone through this year. Because hey, what do we always say? I mean, in the media, we're like, oh, how is this not going to become a distraction? Future of Nikolaj Ehlers. Well, 2 things. It hasn't bothered Nikolaj Ehlers because he's playing some of the best, if not the best, hockey of his career, and the team he plays for is in first place. I mean, is there uncertainty over the future of Nikolaj Ehlers? Of course there is, but he's not bringing it to the rink with him every day. It's not bothering him. It's not impacting his play, and that is a testament to him. I also talked to him about the excitement level for the playoffs, and for him personally, he talked about the scar tissue and the disappointment of the last 2 years. and he didn't shy away from it. I asked him about, we both know that your postseason success has not matched your regular season success, and he didn't hide from it. He said, I got to be a lot better. And this is nothing new for Nikolaj Ehlers. This guy's ability to self-assess is high end. He's not afraid to be critical of himself. He is a very hard marker, as they say. And he was first to say, he thought he saw progress, Sean, last year. It didn't translate into big eye-popping numbers against Colorado, but he felt he played the way that he needed to in that series. Where he got 2 assists. He didn't maybe see the reward in the goal scoring front, but he's well aware of the 4 goals, 14 points, and 37 playoff games, and he wants those numbers to change, but he also wants to win a Stanley Cup, and that's more important to him than he knows that if he plays the way that he should, with the way that he can, he will produce in the playoffs, and now it's up to him to do it.
Okay, time for us to get into the awards for the show. What's your Johnston Group got you covered play of the game, Ken?
Yeah, I still think it's the first back check of the game because the game was still tied at this point, Sean, and because we talked about the importance of back pressure and things of that nature. I mean, Ehlers comes back and pickpockets somebody in the slot who thought they had a clean look, grade A chance, and to me, his dogged determination on the puck. He did it one other time during the game on a back check, but to me, that sort of set the tone in a game where scoring chances were tough to come by. He ensured that a grade A was taken off the board in a game. I think the chances at 5-on-5, according to Natural Stat Trick, high dangers were 6-6 in this game. And one of the reasons they were even was because Ehlers did an incredible job on the back check. And that's what I'm going with as my choice.
Yeah, that's Jeff Kabili's as well, and well done. It's mine as well. That is a very, very good candidate for the Johnston Group. Got you covered. Play of the game. And when you got the kind of player who's running around the ice and opening things up the way I said that he was offensively for the team, even though it didn't end up paying off on this night, and you've got that kind of defense coming out of them as well. Like, honestly, Nick Ehlers is the kind of player, and had been to a little bit in the past or in some past years, who was like, you would think that's the kind of player who's just all offense, and we're not going to get a lot of great defense out of that player. Nick Ehlers is a phenomenal defensive player. He uses his speed both for one north end of the ice, south end of the ice. Give him credit for that, and we'll give him that credit by giving him the Johnston Group Got You Covered play of the game. And hey, do you run a small business in Canada? Look to Canada's #1 employee benefits plan, Chambers Plan, to give you a competitive edge. Chambers Plan is the simple, stable, smart choice for over 30,000 businesses countrywide. Visit chamberplan.ca to learn more. Ken, what do you have as the keg save of the game?
That is a good question. I thought I might have sent you something, but I think that actually, you know what? Kemper on Cole Perfetti is going to be my choice for save of the game. I can't remember if it was before the Kuzmenko goal or not. I think it was in this. No, it was in the second period. Before the goal by Kuzmenko, Perfetti had the puck in the slot on the backhand. Kemper kicks out the left pad and just made a phenomenal save. So again, I thought that Connor Hellebuyck made plenty of good saves when the opportunities were there. But just in terms of where the game was at, I thought that save was my keg save of the game.
He's an example, Darcy Kemper, who is actually a goaltender that Connor Hellebuyck really, really admired. I remember I've told that story on this podcast before, but when he won the Stanley Cup, I went and I told him, he didn't know this. Connor Hellebuyck had a talk with him one time about how he thought Darcy Kemper was a guy that traditional stats didn't show how good he was way back when he was in Arizona, or probably the Phoenix Coyotes, they were called at the time that was happening. And I went and I told him after he'd won the Stanley Cup that Connor Hellebuyck is a really, really big fan of yours. And he was like, are you serious? Like, can you believe that? And his dad was there at the same time. And his dad, because they're celebrating on the ice afterwards, and his dad was like, oh my God, like it was like they'd won a second Stanley Cup, that the best goalie in the world was giving him those kind of props. But I would say this reminds me a little bit of, Darcy Kemper looked like a goaltender that was maybe gone for a little bit here, except what happens is he gets back in behind a really great defensive team. And now you're seeing a career resurgence, right? This is an example of like what good goaltenders, both these teams here tonight are examples of what good goaltenders look like behind, well, in the case of the best goaltender in the world and a really great goaltender, look like behind elite defense teams. This is what it looks like, and how those teams can bring out the very best in those goaltenders.
Sorry, the save was in the third period, about 6:40 to go, not in the second. So just wanted to clean that up.
There it is, folks. That's our hashtag the keg got you. Sorry, save of the game brought to you by the keg and the 3 fine keg locations here in the city of Winnipeg. Each location finer than the last. You should share with us your hashtag the keg save of the game, because if you do, you're automatically entered to win a $50 gift certificate that you can use at any of those 3 fine keg locations in the city of Winnipeg. Once again, each location finer than the last. And our winner from our last show, that would be Kim Sawchuk. Kim, you know what to do. Direct message me at SN Sean Reynolds. Send me your full name. Send me an email. I will have the fine folks at the keg send you a $50 gift certificate usable at any of the 3 fine keg locations here in the city of Winnipeg. Each location finer than the last. We know that Kim is out east, but she does make regular trips to Winnipeg. So hopefully she'll be able to come into town and use it there, and not give it to that no good brother Dale of hers. That's why would she do that? That's crazy. Anyways, moving on. TCB lamplighter of the game. What do you got, Ken?
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm going to go with the Perfetti goal just because of the execution, and not just the execution of the finish, but the play by Morgan Barron to force Quinton Byfield into a ill-advised shot. Kings are in control at this point, Sean. The Jets are trying to battle and get back into it. Kings unable to get much going generated on the power play situation. Byfield takes a shot that he probably shouldn't have. Barron blocks it, but not only does he block it, he has the wherewithal to recognize and listen. This is where communication comes in. Knowing that Perfetti is coming out of the box, he identifies that Perfetti is moving, then calmly goes and grabs the puck and makes a really good pass to lead Perfetti through the neutral zone on the 2-on-1 rush and the execution there. I mean, honorable mention, I'm going to go to Trevor Moore's goal. It's not the prettiest goal, Sean, but in a game where I thought the Jets actually had a good start, the fact that just a failed zone exit with a breakout pass is an errant play, and Joel Edmondson finds it at the point. What do we talk about? You got to go to the hard areas to score in a game like this. And there's Trevor Moore with a good redirection. But I am going to go with the Perfetti goal just because he continues to shine. But honorable mention to the Moore goal. And just quick shout out. I know I maybe thought I should do it at the end of the show, and folks don't like us talking about the opponent very often. But big night for Joel Edmondson, the Manitoban, Sean, on the back end. 600th NHL game today. Incredible testament to a guy who absolutely plays his behind off and has ever since he got into the league. Yes, he's a high draft pick, second rounder of the St. Louis Blues in 2011, but this is a guy that has been bounced around a lot, and in the era of analytics has taken some undeserved heat at various points. Yes, there were times he needed to play better. That's fine, but Joel Edmondson gives you everything that he has. And he was interviewed at the intermission and shouted out his parents. And we know he lost one of his parents recently. So, stick taps to Joel Edmondson for a great accomplishment. He's not done yet, and he's playing on a very good team, and he's chasing another Stanley Cup. So just wanted to give him a quick salute as we've wrapped up the awards here.
Well done, Ken. I just did want to touch on this. When you explain that situation of the block shot by Morgan Barron, what you do see in that situation is you see the hockey smarts of a player. Hey, Quinton Byfield's a great player. But what you see in that situation is one player being far more aware of the situation than the other, right? To your point, Quinton Byfield takes a shot he should not be taking in that situation. And why he shouldn't be doing it is he should be aware of the clock and that he's putting himself in a situation to create an odd man rush going the wrong way. What you do see in that situation is while he is seemingly oblivious to that in that situation, Morgan Barron is not. Morgan Barron is ready to go, pounces on it because he's very aware of what's happening on the clock at that point and realizes that once he blocks that shot, the Jets probably have them outmanned down the ice. So that's a play that's generated entirely by great positioning by Morgan Barron, but also the awareness that he has that seems to be lacking in that situation by Quentin Byfield in that situation. That's our TCB Lamplighter of the night. Doesn't matter what we think, though. Share with us your Lamplighter. You're automatically entered to win a frosty, delicious 8-pack of Lamplighter Amber Ale, brought to you by our friends at TransCanada Brewing Company. If you can't wait for Ken or Ren to gift you your very own 8-pack, you can head on down to 11290 Kenniston. Join them in their tap room where they've got all kinds of different selections on tap, some great food, and all the beer you would want to buy in their store. That brings us to our TCB Lamplighter winner from our last game, and that would be Leighton Janis. Leighton, you know what to do. Direct message me at SN Sean Reynolds. Send me your name. Send me an email. I will send you a voucher for a frosty, delicious 8-pack of Lamplighter Amber Ale, brought to you by our friends at TransCanada Brewing Company. You will find out very soon, Leighton. It is the nectar of the gods. Ken, anything to say before we go?
Just one last shout out, former Manitoba Moose sniper Jeff Malott. I thought he actually looked pretty good on the fourth line for the Kings today. A guy who spent 4 years with the Moose, got into his first NHL game with the Jets against the Blackhawks in that 21-22 season. Change of scenery as an unrestricted free agent. He's got 23 goals, 51 points for the Ontario Reign, and played really hard out there. You know how guys work, how hard guys work, and you understand when they want to have a look and maybe get a fresh set of eyes and see if they can get a few more games. And that's exactly what he's done this year.
All right. Well, great job by him. Second game of his career, correct?
This is his fourth this year with LA, though. Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
So it's 5 total. Yeah.
Anyway, thanks everybody. I'm knocking on the
Way to
door
grind it, buddy.
3 a.m. here and have an early morning flight and a full day of work ahead of me. So I'm not gonna tarry for too long. I'm just going to say, if you all appreciate the fact that we're doing this at this time in the morning, because I can tell you we sure appreciate the fact that you're all here at this time in the morning. But if you do appreciate the conversation happening at this time in this space, we implore you to appreciate our sponsors who fight to keep the conversation going in this space. For us, that's Vittorio Rossi, Pristine Roofing, Cambrian Credit Union, Sweet Lou Furlan, Flame and Comfort, the Kenny and Renny OGs in the Johnson Group, and the Keg and TransCanada Brewing Company. Thank you to them. Thank you to all of you folks. We will see you after the next one. Bye-bye.